What if you could build quads of steel, calves of iron, and boulder shoulders with one easy to learn and safe machine? I'm Kayvon, founder of Bells of Steel, and this is the Pandemonium Squat. There are a lot of reasons that you'd want to train with a pendulum squat, but I'm going to give you my top three. And so number one is that deep knee flexion and that deep squat to help grow your quads. The pendulum squat has been a staple in a lot of bodybuilders' training regimens. And for somebody who isn't extremely experienced at squatting, who can't do a full A to G squat, which can take years to learn, you're able to get the benefits of that extremely deep squat with a pendulum squat right off the bat. Two is gonna be that reduced spinal load. So similar to like a belt squat machine that loads the weight around your waist and doesn't put that pressure from squatting on your back, the pendulum squat is similar. And so when you're actually using it, most of the pressure when you're pressing off of it is against this backrest, not really against the shoulders. So it's gonna be a lot more comfortable for people who wanna squat, who are having back issues, and regular barbell squats gives their back a hard time because of that compression. Third reason you're gonna want a pendulum squat is that safety and control when doing advanced movements. So obviously it's a machine and you've got your spotter on here, and so it's a lot lower of a learning curve, so you can jump right into advanced movements like a deep squat, or you can mess around with your foot placement like I have been, and doing things like putting your foot placement low and doing like a sissy squat, like a weighted sissy squat, which really targets your kind of VTO, your teardrops in your quads, something I've never been able to really do on my own, and so I've been able to do that with the pendulum squat. Let's go over how the Pandemonium Squat works. So this project idea came a while ago when just saw a big gap in the market. You couldn't really get a non-commercial pendulum squat, which costs like thousands and thousands of dollars, like $5,000+. And it kind of reminded me of our journey with our belt squat machine. Same thing, when we first brought the belt squat machine to market, there was one or two on the market that were less than like $5,000. So it did really well because it brought this fantastic machine to market that home gym users didn't really have access to because of the price. So that was kind of like the same intent with the Pandemonium Squat. And the other part was, well, I'm designing for home gym owners first, and this takes up a lot of space in a home gym. So I'm gonna make it as multi-purpose as possible. And that's where it kind of started. Here's everything that's included in the pendulum squat. So you have your counterbalance arm, your two plate pegs. These are just for storing some extra 45-pound plates. Your stopper, your feet, your extender feet. Of course, like everything you see here, the plate adjuster, a little mag pin that comes for the plate adjuster. And then you've got the removable back seat, which comes with two magnetic pins. It does come with the Viking press handles and this spotter arm for doing the Viking presses. And it also comes with this extra long magnetic pin for stabilizing the arm when loading and unloading, as well as using for pull-ups. And the spotter arm and basically everything you see here, 3 of these, and everything you need to assemble it, all the nuts and bolts. I'll show you how to do a pendulum squat in it. And so this is only adjustable up and down. It's got like a telescopic arm on it, a magnetic pin. And this is the full angle up, you can see. And this is the full down. So I'm gonna set it about in the middle. Some people requested that we allow the platform to shift back and forth. But when I did some testing with that, basically just rebolting the platform back and forth, it didn't feel good and didn't really want to add the cost, and I felt in the training it didn't really add any value, so we didn't do that. So you get into pendulum squat, and one thing you'll notice too, these 3 different pegs here, so you can install these you got one extra option. So the idea of making this single upright higher is you'll see pendulums out there and they're not very accommodating of super tall people. And so we want to make this more, make it higher for tall people, and also you need it for your calf press. So I put it at these 3 levels. You'd have to be pretty tall to use this top one for doing calf press, but some of our tall testers did need it, so that's why it's higher up there. And I like to think about the pendulum pushing into the back pad instead of the shoulder pads. And you're gonna grab the handle. A big tendency people have is to grab the sides. Don't do that. That's gonna make you drive more into the shoulder pads and you can pinch yourself. So grab the handle, keep your back pressed against it, lift up, untwist, and you're gonna see this deep knee flexion you can get. And so I couldn't do a barbell squat like this, right? Not that deep. And that's where some of that extra quad activation is gonna come from. And then like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I'll go super low and I'll kind of do a bit of like a sissy squat, which I've never really done much before until now. And again, keep your head back. I always have a tendency to look forward. Keep your head back, hands on there. And re-rack. Mention the counterbalance arm on it as well. So to actually fully counterbalance the weight of the arm and the backrest is 127.5 pounds to 100% counterbalance it. I think the pendulum squat should be using the counterbalance arm. It, to me, provides like a better resistance curve. And of course, if you've never done a pendulum squat before, prepare to be humbled because I don't think out of all the testing we did, anyone managed to squat more than like 3 plates, and that person normally squats 700. Now, one thing to note though, he's a wide squatter, and the pendulum squat is narrower, and that is partially for like space savings and partially for it being just a quad dominant exercise. So some people wanted it a little bit wider, but again, I didn't think the trade-off was worth it. So anyways, I think you should use the counterbalance arm, 127.5 pounds to completely counterbalance it. And yeah, and so I don't think you should use it necessarily doing calf raises, but I'll leave it on there just for demonstration purposes. So in the calf press, there's a few different ways you can get into it. So probably what you should do is before you have any weight on there, you should go and set it up to the next height. And then when you load heavier weight onto it, you'll be ready to press up from here. And yeah, get a nice full stretch on that. And there is knurling on that calf block, and it is welded on, so you can't remove it. I'm gonna show you how to set up and do Viking presses on the Pandemonium Squat. So you take your spotter arm and go over to the upright and put it in. And then next, just so the arm is lighter, you're gonna take the back seat off. You can take these mag pins out and take the back seat off. And now the back seat, you can kind of take a bolt and help store it on there, but because it's on a bit of an angle, it doesn't store that well on here. Not with the mag pins anyways, but you can use a little bolt. It's a little hack I've been using. Let's put that to the side. Mag pins there. And now I'm going to grab one side while it's not loaded, and I'm gonna lift it up, put the safety out, put it down, and this, both the arm, the spotter arm and the pendulum arm itself have rubber protection on it. And now you're gonna put your weight on. So, just gonna put on 25s. So there's a couple important things to note when doing the Viking. So number one, you don't have a lot of places to put the spotter arm because of the cross member connecting here. And the cross member does need to connect there in order to have the machine more stable, and also on the back end to make sure the counterbalance doesn't bump into this cross member. It was a whole thing. So you basically got one option for a spot to put it at for doing Viking. And you also cannot drop on Viking, and you have to start, I mean, most Vikings start in the hole anyways, but you can't just do a free drop. Even with this strong spotter arm, if you do a free drop, you will bend that spotter arm. It will get bent, which is something we did in testing, doing some free dropping. And again, we found that this style spotter arm, this comes from another product that we sell, about being on an angle, and it held up the best, I think because of the angles of it. Anyways, this was the winner in our testing. So that's just a few things to note. So again, don't drop it and set it down as nice as you can. Yeah. I demoed the main exercises that the Pandemonium Squat was designed for. However, I want to show off a couple others that it works for, and I do personally use it for in my own training. Essentially, this is just like a giant lever arm that can be loaded on both ends, and so you can get pretty creative with it. But I'll show you first how you can actually use it as a pull-up bar station. So what you would do is you would take this long mag pin and you would pop this right up and you would put it in here, and that's going to put it up high enough to be able to do pull-ups on. And now I'll go on and show you some of the lever exercises you can do on the Pandemonium Squat. So I've loaded this up on the counterbalance arm, kind of to act as a plate-loaded lat pull down. So I'll take this long magnetic pin out and give you a quick demo. Now, one thing to keep in mind, because the lever is so long, that in order to get the amount of resistance that most people are gonna need, you need to load quite a bit of weight on the back end there. So it's not the best for lat pull down, just because you have to put so much weight, but I'll show you how it works. And when I've been doing it, I kind of just tuck my feet underneath the calf press block. Now I've set it up as a makeshift dip machine. And so same thing, counterbalance is loaded with weight. And now I have this magnetic pin actually keeping the lever arm down. And I've used this for like machine dips. Yeah, it gets good resistance curve and a great pump in the triceps. Now I've set it up with weight on this end, so you can kind of use it as a makeshift bent over row machine or shrugs, things like that. And again, as we work our way down into these more fringe exercises, they're not going to be as good of a strength curve and as good of the things that the Pandemonium Squat was actually designed for, but just to give you an idea of some of the creative things you could do. Let's talk specs. So the overall footprint is going to show on your screen, but I want to give a couple caveats to that. So number one, with the counterbalance arm, if you're loading 45-pound plates on there, that's going to add about 8 inches to the overall length. Of course, you don't have to use 45-pound plates. You could use something shorter, but it's going to add some length to the machine. And then the height is just measured by the highest point. However, if you do use this for pull-ups, the full height for pull-ups is 88.2 inches, and that doesn't include head clearance. Mentioned a few of the specs too. So we are using our 60 by 60 or 2.3 by 2.3 inch tubing like we do for a lot of our racks. And so a lot of our rack attachments will actually fit on. This is an 11 gauge steel, and then the arm is an 11 gauge steel as well, or 3 millimeter. And the arm itself is 60 by 50 millimeter, and that's about 2.3 inches by 2 inches. So that is why the arm is so heavy and the counterbalance is so much. We really needed a super strong arm because of that super long lever on it. The plate pegs are chrome plated, which is nice for getting it on and off and less chipping over time. And again, they are on an angle for the counterbalance and the Pendulum Squat side. These ones are straight, chrome plated. And then you've got the foot plate. That is a checker pattern for better grip. Calf block is round and it's knurled on it. One thing I want to call out with the pad is it's contoured, and so that means it's going to be easier to take on and off of the machine when you're switching from Viking press to pendulum squats. I mentioned the back pad itself. So it is on a slight inward angle, just give you better coverage when doing pendulum squats. We did initially have it straight up and down, but everyone felt that having a bit of an angle would work better, and does have like a reinforced C-clamp on there. And these pins, you do need to use them when using it, but the pins are just an additional safety factor. The bulk of the pressure is going on the C-clamp on the back pad itself. I'll go over some of the attachment compatibility. So because this is using our 60x60 tubing, which I use for our intro racks, you can fit the attachments from there on the Pandemonium Squat. So you can see here, probably the most popular one would be band pegs. You see I have band pegs set up on here. I didn't include band pegs by default. A lot of people just don't use band pegs, and so you can buy them extra. It's the same ones that we use for our Hydra racks. And I recommend 4 because this triangle shape of a band is kind of the desired setup. You can also technically fit some extra storage pegs on here, but you can see I just put out some small plates on here. One of the issues is that you can't just put the pegs wherever you want, because you've got different cross members coming in, and you got out clearance for these plates. So it is not like as good as, say, putting pegs on a power rack where you can pretty much put them anywhere. So something you need to be aware of. And then you can technically get something like a dip attachment. And now I don't know if I'd buy a dedicated dip attachment for this. So one, if you're gonna be doing dips on the outside of this, you wanna make sure you have it either bolted down or a secure amount of weight so it doesn't tip. So I'd say this would be, the benefit here would be more so storage, like storage of your attachments from your rack, just extra storage. Same thing here, you can get our utility hooks, put those on, put different your belts or your bands or whatever on there. But again, because there's a big moving arm on here, you have to be cautious when you put something like this on. For example, I tested this, I made sure that the plates didn't knock into this, but maybe in a different position they would. So something to be aware of, that yes, things are technically compatible, but it's not its primary purpose. Yeah, I'll show you a quick dip. And again, like you can see, this dip is set really low because you've got this cross member here interfering with probably where an ideal place would be for a dip. And if you went up here, it would be too high. It would also definitely interfere with the arm. But yeah, if you were short enough, you could technically do dips as long as it's nice and secured down. I'm gonna go over some safety tips on how to use the Pandemonium Squat and things to always do and remember when you're using it. So first off, when you are putting the pad on, to make sure that you have both magnetic pins fully inserted. Next is how to adjust the spotter arm on the Pandemonium Squat. So unlike most pendulum squats where the spotter arm is actually on the back of the base going up, on the Pandemonium Squat, it's on the back pad going down, and that was designed in order to allow you to do Viking press and have like feet clearance and not get in the way. So how you adjust this, it is a twist and pop knob. So you both have to pop it into place as well as tighten it. And then how you actually find where it should go for your height and the exercise you're doing. I mean, it just takes a little bit of tinkering when you first get it. I like to set it somewhere around maybe 1 pinhole below my maximum depth. So yeah, you can see here, it extends out. This is the furthest down it goes, and this is the furthest up it goes. So yeah, it's just something you're gonna have to test out when you first get it. And I'll show you what it looks like when it bottoms out. Got that tightened in. And then you can kind of get out if you do actually miss a rep. Next is gonna be about hand placement and how to use the rotating spotter arm. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, you don't want to be putting your hands up here. It's not how it should be used, and it's also a danger because you could get pinched in there. So you want your hands on here at all times. and you just up and unlock it. It does have a little stopper on the back, so it doesn't flop completely over, and then put it back on. Next, I'll mention the frame itself. So you actually can mount this to the floor. So maybe you're putting this in a commercial gym and you don't ever want it to move. You can bolt it to the floor. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, you can use this just as a pendulum squat without the counterbalance arm and without the extender feet. But if you do want to do Viking press on it, you must have these extender feet installed. For doing Viking press, you do want to have the spotter arm in place before you start loading any weights on. And so you get spotter arm in place, you lift up the side of the pendulum, you swing the spotter or the safety hook out, and then put it onto the spotter arm, and then load your Viking press weights. Next, I'm gonna demonstrate what you need to do when loading the counterbalance arm heavy for doing things like lat pull down or tricep presses. So if you just start loading plates back here, the counterbalance arm is just gonna kind of swing up. And so what you wanna do is first unlock it, take your long magnetic pin, put it in the top, and not only is that going to keep it in place so it doesn't swing up, but it's also going to put the plate pegs lower for easier loading. One thing to note about loading the counterbalance on in this position when it's up high for loading the lat pull down is that this counterbalance peg isn't going to give you a lot of clearance with the plates on the plate peg. So what I do is I just kind of shift my plates out a little bit, and then I can get the plates on like that. When unloading the counterarm weights in the lat pull down position, the same is true. You do want to put the magnetic pin back in, holding it in that top height, because when you unload this, then the arm is going to fall down. So if you put that magnetic pin in first, safely unload all of your plates, and then you can come around, take the magnetic pin out, and put it back into place. The loading pegs on the Pandemonium Squat are on an angle, so you don't actually need collars on them. For the plate holder though, they are straight, and so I'd not recommend loading 45s all the way to the edge. I wouldn't recommend that on really any of our plate pegs, just because vibrations could end up, vibrations from doing the exercise could end up pushing the plates off. So you don't want to load that right to the max. I'll mention the adjuster pin on the foot plate itself. So much like the backrest, you just want to make sure this magnetic pin is fully inserted before use. And just like in the Viking press position, if you are going to do a row, you want to preset the spotter arm in that position before you load and unload. And then ideally have it set up around here so you can see the spotter arm is clearing the pads and not damaging those pads. One thing to mention about the hook before moving up and down, you can see here it's in a down position. You want to always have your hook in the up position before you adjust it up or down, so then when you do adjust it, you can easily put it back in place. So when using this for something like dips, the safest way to do it is similar to lat pull down, where you put it up and put the magnetic pin in first, and then put on like one plate aside, and you get those one plate aside on, and then that's gonna be enough to be able to take the pin out and kind of easily put it into the dip position, and then insert the pin back in. Find like at the height that you want it. That's probably too low. Put it up here. And then that counterbalance is enough to push it up and find your spot. Say, yep, that's good. And then you go back and load on your actual working weight. And again, like I mentioned earlier with the Viking press, where you can't just let the arm completely drop or you'll bend the spotter arm. Same like this, you want to be, you don't want to be letting it just full on crash into the magnetic pin. You risk bending your pin. When unloading in a dip position, you're gonna wanna do the same in reverse. So you're gonna wanna take it, whatever weight you got off, and just leave a 45 on each side. And that's gonna be light enough that you'll be able to control it back up, put the magnetic pin back in, and then fully unload it. Like that. And then take the magnetic pin out and set it back to your pendulum squat height. Safely using the Viking press, like I mentioned before in the video, you're gonna want to put that spotter arm in before you do any loading. Pop it in, take the hook off and put it down. And then you're gonna load your plates on. And again, when doing a Viking press, you wanna controlled put it back on. If you free drop it, it will bend that spotter arm. But you're not supposed to be really free dropping Viking presses anyways. Hope you enjoyed this overview video. I think you're going to love the Pandemonium Squat. We spent a lot of time designing it and testing it, and it is my new personal favorite leg machine. I've been training with it basically exclusively for squats for close to a year now. And I want to hear from you. What do you think the next dedicated machine we should do? So this is kind of a bit more of a foray into, exclusive machines as opposed to like super multi-purpose stuff like racks or cable towers. A lot of people have suggested doing a seated row machine. I'd like to hear from you what you think. And if you want to buy the Pandemonium Squat, click the link in the description below and let the gains begin. I'm Kayvon, founder of Bells of Steel. I hope you loved that video. And if you want to check out any more of our products or follow us on social media, click the links below in the description and let the gains begin.